Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, of course, has issued new contactless payment guidelines in an effort to unify payment processes and preserve the stability of the financial system. What does that mean for the economy? What does that mean for a number of sectors? We're going to be getting into that with Mr. Chinedu Onuoha, who is the MD of Mzuri Solutions Ltd. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And what do you make of this? I guess we want to break down this regulation for our viewers. What's it about?
Thank you, Rutus, for having me. Good morning, viewers. Contactless payment essentially talks about or deals with being able to make payment at a physical point, without having to physically enter your PIN or do the normal transactions. And there are various ways that contactless payments could happen. It could be a bracelet that you tap somewhere and make the payment. It could be a card. It could be anything. Now, what it does is that it helps large volume and low-value transactions to take into place. For instance, mass transit. Okay, contactless payments, you have a lot of people entering a bus, 30, 40 people entering the bus at the same time. Now, contactless payment, what it does is that it makes it easy for such access to come to be. Now, prior to now, there's not been any rule or set of guidelines for contactless payment in Nigeria. What you have is that in small niche players try to do something or try to make it possible. But with this current regulation, the standards have been established, and we can now approach, we can now start benefiting from the value of contactless payment at a larger level based on what it is today. So prior to now, like I mentioned, you have those small individual players, and what you see is that it's difficult to grow. You can't scale from that perspective.
Aha, yeah.
Okay, you cannot scale.
Right.
But before now, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, some banks have been issuing contactless cards. Now, the challenge with issuing contactless cards, okay, you've issued the card, where are the acceptance points?
Thank you.
Okay,
yeah.
But with the regulation in place now, what it means is that investments will now start coming. People will then start developing acceptance points. People will then start building schemes, products, and all of that to make it possible. Okay, and we think that it's going to be exciting times ahead. And when you look at it again, today government is talking about how do we create, permit the use of the word palliatives, how we create social systems that will make it possible for the end user not to feel the impact of the petrol subsidy. We know we have very high poverty rate in the country. A lot of people today cannot afford to go to work. What we've seen in my place of work, you will see that some people have begged to stay in the bus quarter, so that maybe they're coming from Oways, from Ikorodu. They have to come in on Monday, they hang around till Friday, they go home because they can't afford to pay transport. But in this instance, what the government can do is to say, okay, yes, I know they're going to be sharing 8,000 naira. Some people have argued that such funds, if you share it, it may be difficult to know who benefits from that, all of that. But imagine a situation where a state government provides the buses, it issues some cards to its workers, so that in the morning you use that card, you get a rebate on all that. Now, there's a lot of transparency that can come through that process. The transparency in terms of, you know who used the card, when it is used, and for what purpose. And you can't, it's not that the chance of diversion becomes very minimal, because at that point, if the card is meant for transportation, it can be configured in such a way it can be used within specific areas. So that can happen. Now, another area that you can find this contactless helping the economy is, take for instance, tourism, entertainment. Okay, today you go to, you want to watch movies, of course, you buy the ticket and all of that process, but it could be a bit easier. You just come, tap, you get access, you go see, or there's a beach somewhere where you need to have access to. You tap, you have access, you go into it. The opportunities are limitless. Okay, going back even to transportation, you will see a situation where at the motor parks owned by the government uses the NURTW as its agent for collection of all of that. Now, with contactless payment, it becomes a lot easier. What would happen is this, okay? So the individuals, instead of paying cash, could tap, enter the bus. If there's a commission the government will need to take, is transparent enough that the government What needs to go to government goes to government, or even the bus owners and getting access to the park can tap instead of paying someone and empowering a very few people, and then the government will not have enough resources to maintain the asset, the park, or whatever it is. You also see the point where from individuals that want to invest in transportation business, part of the challenges that people have had, or from individual perspective, investing in transportation is that, oh, I buy the bus, give someone, I don't know how much he's making out of it, he tells me all the stories and all of that, all of that. Okay, so imagine a situation where, okay, you buy these buses, and then the only way to gain access to enter the bus is this. And at that point, you're not paying to the driver, you're not paying to the conductor. So the opportunities are limitless. And there are a lot of places that we can learn from as a country where it's worked, whether it's the Clipper card in the San Francisco area in the US, or the Oyster card in the UK, or the EasyLink card in Singapore, whatever it is. So these systems have been perfected. But the good thing about the CBN regulation now is that it has created a standard to the effect that, okay, I can use my cards to enter Lagos in Lagos here if it's so designed to do that. I can use the same card maybe to enter a train from Lagos to Ibadan. I can use the same card because what the owner of the transport company is interested is in the payment, and then ensuring that you have authenticated access to be able to get. So I think it's going to be a very interesting time, especially within the fintech space, because transport tech has almost focused mainly on the small transportation systems like Uber.
Yeah, the ride-hailing guys.
The ride-hailing,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. The ride-hailing system. But it caters more to the middle class because, okay, Uber with the subsidy removal, Uber from VI to Ikeja sometimes goes as high as 6K, 7K,
Yep.
okay, which is like 20% of somebody's minimum wage.
Right.
So it's not for those people.
Yeah.
And contactless payment will make the lower end benefit from the efficiency, transparency, and all of that comes with technology.
We have less than a minute to go. Can you quickly talk about the risks, though? What about the
Okay, the risks are going to be quite massive. So you see a situation where today people are able to clone identities, steal cars, steal PIN, and all of that. But in this instance, there's no identity to be stolen. All you need to have, once you have the person's card, you can tap on that. But the central bank, in some way, is also trying to find ways to mitigate it, even from within the regulation. So the owners of acceptance devices have to be properly, the issuers of acceptance devices have to be individuals or institutions licensed by the central bank. So they have KYC responsibilities. And then another area is that there could be interception where, okay, so because the link, what NFC uses is mostly RFID, which is a type of technology, or NFC as the case may be. So bad people or bad actors can intercept it. But the central bank has said, okay, the system that we adopt in Nigeria is with a maximum of 2 centimeters. So the card has to come as close as possible to make it happen. And then there are standards of encryption, all of that, to make it be. But we expect is something that would happen, that the risk of fraud can become high. People can steal those acceptance devices and maybe go to a place like Oshodi and start tapping people's bags and all of that. But with proper regulation and proper focus by the industry players, I think the benefits will far outweigh whatever the risks may be.
Fantastic. Great conversation. Very much looking forward to how this plays out. Mr. Chinedu Onuoha, MD of Mzuri Solutions Ltd. Thank you for talking to us about contactless payments. Appreciate it.